If you can't disprove something, does that mean it exists? Drivers have pulled over in Pennsylvania for what they thought was a child, only to find a 5-foot hairy figure with glowing yellow eyes. There's a goat man, a lizard man, a frog man. I'm going to even tell you about the deep-sea abominable snowman. Bet you never heard about that one before. But before I do, hit that bell, subscribe for more, and now, let's get into it. I'm Mike with List 25, and these are 25 cryptids modern science still can't explain. 25. The Albatwitch. Lancaster County, Pennsylvania's local cryptid is the albatwitch, short for apple snitch. It's supposed to be a small, hairy, baby Bigfoot-type creature that hides in the woods and steals fruit. Sounds nondescript enough, until you hear about what happened in 2002. A man named Rick Fisher was driving through the area when he spotted what looked like a child by the road. It was late, and the kid seemed to be in trouble, so Rick slowed down. But as he got closer, the figure turned and ran into the trees. It wasn't a child or even close to one. He described it as a dark 5-foot-tall creature totally covered in hair with glowing yellow eyes. Locals say it happens more than you'd expect. Whether it's real or not, well, they dare you to travel there at night and find out for yourself. 24. The Goat Man. It doesn't matter which version of the Goat Man story you've heard, they all have one thing in common. Something, somewhere, went very wrong. Some say he was a goat herder who went off the deep end after a group of teenagers killed his goats. Others claim he's basically a regional Bigfoot, just with a lot more horns. And then there's the version that involves the government. According to that one, the Goat Man was the result of a DNA experiment gone wrong at the nearby Department of Agricultural Research Center in Beltsville. Whatever the origin, he's known for chasing people, going after dogs, and getting rid of teens who want to park on Fletchtown Road. 23. The Slide Rock Bolter. In the good old days, Colorado's lumberjacks used to warn each other about something massive hiding in the mountains. They called it the Slide Rock Bolter, and according to the older stories, it was the size of a blue whale. It would anchor itself to steep slopes using a hooked tail, wait at the top of a 45-degree incline, and then launch itself downhill with its mouth wide open, scooping up anything in its path. It supposedly produced a slick, sticky fluid from its mouth to help it slide faster. And once it reached the bottom, the momentum would carry it up the next ridge, where it would hook itself in place and wait for the next unlucky thing to wander by. No one's come face to face with it in years, but that doesn't stop people from pointing out sections of forest that look like something heavy just tore through. 22. The Dingoneck. If you were exploring East Africa in the early 1900s, you'd expect to see hippos or crocodiles. Not a 14-foot creature with a leopard's head, tusks like a walrus, clawed feet, and thick armored scales. But that's exactly what John Alfred Jordan claimed he saw in the Magori River. He called it the Dingoneck, and to this day, nobody really knows if he was exaggerating, hallucinating, or genuinely onto something. The description didn't match anything known to science, which is probably why the story stuck. A tusked, cat-headed reptile swimming upstream isn't something people confuse with a hippo. Jordan didn't let it go. He repeated the story in a 1910 memoir titled Enclosed Territory, where he said he even fired at the thing. Then again, in Wide World magazine in 1917, he doubled down and said there was, quote, no particle of doubt that what he saw was real. He spent another 25 years exploring Africa and only left when malaria nearly killed him. 21. The Oklahoma Octopus. There have been reports out of Oklahoma lakes about swimmers disappearing after something pulled them under, and a few locals say they know exactly what it was. A giant freshwater octopus. Most stories come from Lake Thunderbird or Lake Tenkiller, where people have disappeared under strange circumstances. The creature is described as huge, aggressive, and strong enough to drag swimmers under, or even wrap itself around boats. Biologically, it makes no sense. Octopuses live in saltwater, not inland lakes in central Oklahoma, but the stories keep coming anyway. There's never been a body, and no one's ever managed to catch one. Still, if you ask people in the small towns around those lakes, they'll tell you the same thing. There's something swimming in the water you don't want to meet up close. 20. Mokele Mbembe. For over 100 years, stories out of the Congo Basin have described something enormous in the rivers. Something that looks a lot like a dinosaur. People call it Mokele Mbembe, which means the one who stops the flow of rivers. Locals say it's about as big as an elephant, with a long dinosaur-like neck, and it's even been accused of tipping canoes or blocking river crossings. Western explorers first heard about it in the early 1900s, and the idea of a leftover dinosaur roaming the rainforest took off from there. Sightings dropped off for a while in the 20th century, but in recent times, locals have been seeing it again more often. Some conservationists think the rise in reports has a lot to do with the current levels of deforestation, which, as we all know, pushes animals closer to people. 19. The Orang Pendek. The name Orang Pendek means short person in Indonesian, and in the forests of Sumatra, especially near Kerinci Seblat, people have been reporting on it for decades. One farmer, Pak Entis, told researchers he saw a tan-coated figure with an ape-like face walking upright through the trees. Dozens of other villagers, rangers, and farmers have described the same thing over the years. It's always small, fast, and shaggy enough to vanish into the brush before anyone gets a good look. The researcher Debbie Martyr spent years deep in the jungle tracking it, logging eyewitness accounts, and casting prints that didn't match any known animal. Richard Freeman followed up with expeditions of his own, using camera traps and collecting hair samples. Even National Geographic once took a stab at finding it, but so far, we've come up short. 18. The Dog-Headed Pig Monster. I know, that's not the most creative name. Or maybe it is. In 2012, people in northern Namibia started panicking about an animal they swore they'd never seen before. It wasn't a hyena, and it wasn't a wild pig, but it seemed to be something with a dog's head and a pig's body that liked to kill goats. The reaction came fast. Families traveled in groups, some carried weapons, and the talk in town shifted to witchcraft. A regional councilor even told the papers it had to be black magic. There was a real fear that the rumors could lead to violence against the people accused of sorcery, but luckily that never happened. Years later, a TV crew from Expedition Mungo went back to investigate and suggested that the people might have mistaken a hyena for something else. The villagers who saw it still believe that it was something far more sinister, and that it'll be back. 17. The Dorhu. Ireland's Dorhu, or Otter King, is said to be so powerful that it can smash straight through boulders, and its skin is said to be magical. It can keep your ship from sinking, your house from collapsing, and even protect you from harm. Getting that pelt, however, comes at a cost, since it can only be killed with a silver bullet, and the hunter who strikes it down always dies within 24 hours. It doesn't sound very believable, I know, but the stories about it go back hundreds of years. The most famous one tells of Grace Connolly, who was mauled while washing clothes at Loch Glenad in 1722. Her husband, Terence, killed the beast, only to face a second one charging out of the lake. In some stories, it killed his horse and forced him to fight it on the spot. In others, he and his companion fled on horseback all the way to County Sligo, where the animal tracked him down, and he barely escaped with his life. The weirdest bit is that for all the recent sightings, the legend seems to be the one with the most evidence, since Grace's gravestone still stands in Cornwall Cemetery, carved with the image of the beast and a blade through its throat. 16. The Capelobo. Brazil's Capelobo has been described in two different ways. In one version, it looks like a tapir walking on two legs. In the other, it's more like a giant anteater. But whichever version you hear, everyone agrees on two things: the scream and the smell. The scream is so vicious, it can send you straight into panic mode. And the stench is bad enough to make you physically sick. One couple along the Xingu River woke up around 4 a.m, heard that cry, and ducked behind a tree. They watched as the creature passed by, and afterwards felt sick for days. Some people believe that the Capelobo started out as an old man who wandered into the woods, ate raw meat, and never came back again. Others add in fun details like one eye, one leg, or the fact that it uses that unique facial layout to slurp up your brains. The The only way to stop it, according to the locals, is an arrow straight into the navel. 15. The Yowie. Have you ever heard of the Yowie? It's Australia's version of Bigfoot, and people there take it seriously. In fact, the latest sighting wasn't all that long ago. In 2021, 3 guys heading to Jimna Base Camp in Queensland spotted something under a streetlight. At first, they thought it was a big animal, maybe a boar. Then, it stood up. One said the face was ape-like, with long arms that swung as it ran. The thing bolted into the dark, but not before they got a clear enough look to know it wasn't a pig or kangaroo. One of the men said he was so rattled he barely slept that night. And that's just the modern stuff. According to Aboriginal traditions, some Yowies are said to reach the height of a tree branch, while others are small but stocky. Both are covered in hair, and neither is especially friendly if you run into them. 14. The Mongolian death worm. That's really what it's called. It's said to be about 3 feet long, bright red, and fat like a cow's intestine. Touch it, and you die. The stories first hit Western ears in 1926 when explorer Roy Chapman Andrews wrote down what Mongolian officials swore was real: a worm so toxic it could kill on contact. Some versions even say it spits acid or electricity across the sand, so it's not the kind of creature you'd want to bump into while trekking the desert. Many expeditions have tried to track it down. Scientists, cryptid hunters, even TV crews have gone looking, but we haven't found it yet. 13. The Ningen. In the early 2000s, Japanese research crews working in Antarctic waters started talking about something unusual surfacing near their ships. They said it was the size of a whale, but looked eerily human. The creature became known as the Ningen, which literally means human in Japanese. A few witnesses said they saw it moving slowly near the surface before sliding back down into the dark water, and described it as pale white, between 60 and 90 feet long, and sometimes with arms, hands, or even a mermaid-like tail. The stories spread online through Japanese message boards and magazines, eventually making their way to the West. A handful of photos and videos have popped up since, but nothing conclusive. 12. The Almas. Mongolia and Kazakhstan's Almas are short, muscular, and completely covered in hair. They don't speak, they avoid people, and to the communities that live near the mountains, they're just part of the natural world. One of the most famous encounters happened in 1925. A Red Army unit led by General Mikhail Stefanovich Topilsky stumbled upon a cave they thought might be hiding enemies. When they opened fire into the dark, something unexpected came charging out. A screaming, naked creature that looked like a primitive human. Topilsky wrote it all down, noting the animal's strength, its ape-like features, and thick hair all over its body. Then there's the story of Zana. She had children with a local man, and while they could function in society, they were known for incredible strength and violent tempers. Decades later, Soviet scientists dug up one of the son's skulls and said it didn't quite match what you'd expect from a modern human. 11. The Igogwe. The Igogwe might be cousins of the Almas, just shorter and a little less terrifying. The people of Kenya, Mozambique, and Uganda describe them as upright bonobo-like creatures with humanish features, especially their long, slender hands. British explorer J. Cotney once tried to hunt one, but the locals wouldn't agree to it. The same thing happened in the 80s when a team of zoologists ran into a wall of quiet resistance. The people there call them the grandfathers of men, and want nothing to do with capturing or harming them. Some scientists believe that these creatures might be a pocket of surviving Australopithecus, the early human ancestors that walked Africa a few million years ago. 10. The Beast of Bray Road. The town of Elkhorn doesn't just have farmland and quiet roads. It's also got a reputation for something that growls, stands up on 2 legs, and scares the hell out of anyone who sees it. The earliest known report came from Mark Shackleton, a night watchman at St. Coletta School, who said he spotted something digging near the ground. Twice. Both times it stood up on 2 legs, growled, and bolted into the dark. Since then, dozens of others have claimed run-ins with it, including one woman who said it sprinted beside her car while she was going 55 miles an hour. Things really took off in the early 90s when a wave of new sightings had locals calling animal control. That's when the Walworth County Week reporter Linda Godfrey dug into it. She found so many reports, many from people who had no reason to lie, that she ended up writing a book and now hosts a whole paranormal conference built around the creature. 9. The Ozark Howler. Stories about a terrifying creature roaming the Ozarks have been passed down through families across Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and Missouri for generations. Some people think the legend comes from a mashup of Native American tales about saber-toothed cats and Irish settler folklore of the Cushee, a shaggy, bull-sized wolf-like beast from Celtic myth, sometimes described with dark green or white fur. These days, though, most reports say that it looks like a massive cat with horns and glowing red eyes. And if the name didn't tip you off, it's got a horrifying high-pitched scream. A few blurry photos of it have surfaced online over the past few years, but most of them look digitally altered and didn't hold up under scrutiny. Whatever people are seeing out there, it's definitely not something they're used to. 8. The Brosno Dragon. Now, we didn't put the Loch Ness Monster on today's list because that's the first animal that usually comes up when people talk about cryptids. However, we decided it was time to give a bit of airtime, so to speak, to the creature the people of Western Russia called Brosnia, or the Bronzo Dragon. Accounts of sightings go back ages, including one where it turned Mongol invaders back in the 1200s. It's also reportedly surfaced to drive campers off, flipped boats, and swallowed fishermen whole. A bit of a stretch, I know. In recent years, 2002, a Russian mystery group known as Kosmopoysk ran an expedition around the lake to find it. They used echo sounders and detected a massive jelly-like blob about the size of a railway car hovering just above the lake bed. Believing it might be the creature, they dropped a small explosive nearby. The mass slowly rose, but when the surface cleared, there was nothing. Lake Brosno is about 140 feet or 43 meters deep, so if there's something hiding in there, it's got a lot of space to hide. 7. The Rougarou. Down in the Louisiana Bayou, some people still believe in the Rougarou, a cursed figure who stalks the swamps at night, described as half man, half wolf. According to the legends, anyone hit with the curse transforms for 101 days. On the last day, it passes on to the first person whose blood they draw. In some versions, it can also kick in if you cross the wrong witch. Now, it might sound like pure folklore, but people who claim to have seen it say the thing walks upright with matted black fur, long limbs, and red eyes that glow in the dark. In 2016, someone in Homa even caught the odd bit of footage on video. And don't even think about accusing someone of being one. There was a time when that kind of talk started fights, led to feuds, and in some towns, left houses burning. 6. The Beasts of England. The UK has its fair share of beasts running around. There's something that likes to eat livestock on the moors of Devon, and over in Exmoor and Bodmin, the story is much the same. One particular animal, the Beast of Cumbria, has been keeping scientists up for years. Farmers kept finding mauled sheep, but they couldn't prove what was attacking them. That finally changed in 2023 when a DNA test from one of those carcasses came back with something strange. Traces of fox, but also fragments from an unidentified big cat. Scientists couldn't pin down the species, but it was enough to convince many that England's phantom cats might be more than folklore after all. 5. The Deep Sea Abominable Snowman. If you've been waiting for this one, well, I'm here to deliver. In 1968, a Miami-based diver named Bruce Mornier was testing a new suit when he came face to face with something that left him truly shaken up. He later wrote about the dive in vivid detail. According to him, he saw a figure with a monkey-like face, eyes far too large for a human, and a head that jutted forward unnaturally. When it turned toward him, the neck twisted like a snake. After locking eyes with him, it darted away using a form of propulsion he simply couldn't explain. Mornier swore it wasn't anything known to science and even suggested it could be a relic from the distant past. No one else has ever reported seeing the so-called deep-sea abominable snowman, which makes his account one of the strangest single sightings on record. 4. The Lizard Man. In the summer of 1988, 17-year-old Christopher Davis was changing a flat tire on a remote road near Scapeore Swamp, South Carolina, when he heard something running up from the swamp behind him. He turned around and saw a beast about 7 feet tall with green scaly skin, long black claws, and 3-toed feet. He said it jumped on his car, damaged the side mirror and roof, and chased him as he sped off into the darkness. Local deputies took his claim seriously and cast large 3-toed footprints in the mud, roughly 14 inches long, but ultimately declined to send them to the FBI for analysis. The story gained a lot of traction in the media, leading to dozens of additional reports of scratched cars, strange noises, and nighttime shadow sightings around Bishopville. A radio station even offered a $1 million reward for anyone who could capture the creature alive. Today, locals still report strange encounters now and then, including photos and videos from as recently as 2015. 3. The Frogman. Ohio isn't the first place you'd put on a cryptid map, yet the banks of the Little Miami River have been home to frogman sightings for a while. The story gained national attention in 1972 when not one, but 2 police officers came forward with encounters of their own. The first, Officer Ray Shockey, spotted what looked like a dog late at night. That was, until it stood up. In that instant, the beam caught what looked like a massive frog on 2 legs, which vaulted over a guardrail and disappeared into the river. His description was detailed enough that his sister was able to sketch it. 2 weeks later, another officer, Mark Matthews, saw the same thing crouched in the road, watching him before climbing over the guardrail. Matthews even fired a shot, but the animal slipped away. Decades later, in 2016, a man named Sam Jacobs claimed he encountered the frogman again while playing Pokemon Go. That sighting made headlines all over again, and pulled the frogman back into the limelight. 2. The Furulutli. Iceland's beach walker is believed to be a squat, doggish, beaverish creature that haunts the shoreline. Some people say it drags one leg when it walks. Others swear that they've heard its shell-covered coat rattling as it moves along the rocks. The weirdest part isn't how it looks, though, but the way it seems to follow people down the shoreline, always staying just far away to get them freaked out. Oh, and it's got a thing for sheep, but in such a way that YouTube won't let me describe it, which probably gives you the general idea. Most of the stories come out of the West Fjords, and the Sea Monster Museum in Bildador even keeps eyewitness accounts of the creature on display. 1. The Big Muddy Monster. The first report of the Big Muddy Monster came out of Murfreesboro, Illinois on June 25, 1973. A couple parked near the Riverside Park boat dock said they heard a scream, and then a 7-foot figure covered in off-white, mud-matted fur stepped out of the woods and headed toward their car. They couldn't see its face, but the size and smell were enough to send them straight to the police station. Over the next few weeks, more people came forward. Mrs. Nedra Green said she could hear the same kind of screams echoing outside her farm all night, and a 4-year-old boy, Christian Barrell, told his father a big ghost was standing in their yard. The police chief took the reports seriously. Tracking dogs were brought in, and for a while there, Murfreesboro was on the edge, wondering if something was moving along the river. New sightings have popped up over the years, including one in 2023, but from all we could gather, that original case from the 70s is still open in the police files. And that's a wrap. But before I call it a day, I've got a trivia question for you. The Agagwe are said to be small, upright, and human-like. Scientists now believe they may have been survivors of which early hominin species? Is it A, Paranthropus boisei, B, Australopithecus, C, Homo naledi, or D, Ardipithecus ramidus? Drop your answer in the comments below, and while you're there, tell me which other cryptids deserved a spot on today's list. Or, even better, what kind of cryptid list you'd like to see next. And hey, if you think a frogman or a swamp beast is weird, trust me, the universe makes them look ordinary. Our related video, 25 Cosmic Mysteries Science Can't Explain, looks at stars that can kill us, galaxies that refuse to follow the rules, and cosmic mysteries so big they literally bend our idea of reality. That link is coming right up. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. And if you have any experience with cryptids or anything like that, Mike at List25, I'd love to see your proof. I'm still a skeptic, just to let you know, but I love to see it. Kind of love those shows. Have you ever encountered one? Show me. I would love to see proof. Catch you guys later. I'm off to go look for cryptids I don't believe in. I don't know. We'll see.